A hidden human warship in deep space, built for one purpose: total conquest. Mysterious signal from deep space. The cold, endless expanse of space lay before them, dark and silent as always. A quiet hum filled the command deck of the SS Elysium, a deep space exploration vessel sent to explore uncharted sectors of the galaxy. Captain Emma Cole sat in the captain's chair, her eyes scanning the screens, watching the endless void as the ship cruised deeper into the unknown. The crew moved around her, focused on their tasks, unaware of the moment that was about to change everything. It started as a simple blip on the radar, a strange signal, faint and encrypted, appearing out of nowhere. At first, it seemed like a malfunction, a glitch in the system, but then it came again and again, a pattern, human-made. But that was impossible. How could there be a human signal out here, so far from known space? "Captain, you might want to see this," Lieutenant Parker called out from his station. He was the first to notice the unusual pattern in the communication system. Cole stood up and walked over, her boots clicking against the metal floor of the command deck. She looked at the screen, eyes narrowing as she saw the strange series of pulses, each one stronger than the last. "Where is it coming from?" she asked, her voice calm, but there was a hint of unease in her tone. Parker tapped a few keys, bringing up the coordinates. "The Black Void, ma'am. Sector 47. No one has ever returned from there." The Black Void, a vast, unexplored area of space known for its high levels of radiation, black holes, and violent cosmic storms. It was a place where ships disappeared without a trace, swallowed whole by the darkness. No one in their right mind would go near it. Cole felt her heart skip a beat. Why would a signal be coming from there? And why was it human? "Any idea who sent it?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. It was impossible. The technology was too advanced. The encryption was perfect. No one could have survived out there for so long. Parker shook his head. "I can't say for sure. It's unlike anything we've encountered. It doesn't match any known species technology, but it's definitely human." A chill ran down Cole's spine. Her mind raced with questions. What was it doing out there? Who could have sent it? And why wasn't it answering any direct communication attempts? The signal wasn't a distress call. It was something else, something far more ominous. "Captain," Parker continued, his voice tense, "I've been running simulations. There's something strange about the signal's trajectory. It's not just random. It's almost as if it's guiding us somewhere." Cole didn't have to ask what Parker meant. The signal was intentionally leading them into the heart of the Black Void. "Get me the rest of the crew. We're going after it," Cole ordered, her voice firm. Her crew looked to her for leadership, and she couldn't let them down now. Whatever was out there, they had to find out. It was their mission. Minutes later, the entire crew was assembled on the deck. They were all aware of the dangers of entering the Black Void, but there was something compelling about this mission. The signal felt important, like it was meant for them to discover, and the idea of a human-made signal, so far from civilization, was too enticing to ignore. Cole stood before them, her face a picture of determination. "We're going into the Black Void," she said. "This is a dangerous mission, and we don't know what we'll find. But we can't turn back now. We've been given a chance to uncover something no one else has. We will find out what this signal means." The crew nodded in agreement, though a few exchanged uneasy glances. They all knew the risks, but their curiosity and sense of duty overshadowed their fear. They were explorers, after all. The SS Elysium turned toward the coordinates of the signal, its engines firing as the ship veered off course toward the Black Void. Outside the viewports, the stars seemed to blur as they entered a region of space so dark, it felt like they were moving through a living shadow. The crew went to work, preparing for whatever might lie ahead. There was no turning back. Hours passed as they neared their destination. The signal grew stronger, pulsing with an eerie rhythm that seemed to vibrate through the walls of the ship. It was as though something was calling them, urging them forward. Each pulse sent waves of anticipation and dread through the crew. What if they were walking into a trap? What if this signal was the last thing they'd ever hear? "We're almost there," Cole said, glancing at the redouts. "Prepare for anything." The tension on the ship was palpable as they passed through the outer edge of the black void. The stars around them seemed to disappear, swallowed by the thick darkness. The only light came from the ship's own systems, casting long shadows across the deck. "Captain," Parker's voice broke through the silence. "The signal, it's coming from a ship. A ship. There, in the heart of the void, hidden from view by the blackness, was something large. A structure that shouldn't be there. The scanners couldn't make sense of it at first, but as they got closer, it became clear. It was a warship, massive and old, drifting aimlessly through the void. The SS Elysium moved closer, its engines humming as they cautiously approached the derelict vessel. The warship was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Its design was unmistakably human, yet far more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. The surface of the ship was battered, covered in signs of battle, with scorch marks and deep gouges that suggested it had been through hell. But it wasn't destroyed. It was still intact, floating in space like a ghost. "What is this?" Cole muttered, her breath catching in her throat. The crew was silent, staring at the warship in awe and fear. It was dead, but not completely. It was as though the ship had been waiting for them, waiting for someone to find it. The radio crackled to life, breaking the silence. "This is the Elysium. Do you read us?" Nothing but static. "Let's get a closer look," Cole said, her voice tight with anticipation. "We're going aboard." The crew moved quickly, preparing for what was to come. They didn't know what they'd find inside, but they knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. Whatever had been waiting for them out here in the black void was now in their hands, and the consequences of what they discovered could change everything. As the SS Elysium docked with the warship, the crew knew one thing. They had just stepped into a mystery that no one could have predicted. The questions flooded their minds. What was this ship? Who had built it? And why had it been lost in the void for so long? The answers lay beyond the airlock, hidden in the darkness of the unknown, and they were about to find out. But the moment they crossed the threshold, they would never be the same again. The truth was out there, waiting for them to uncover it, and it was waiting to change everything. The SS Elysium drifted closer through the darkness of the black void, its engines humming softly as the crew watched the approaching ship on their scanners. It was huge, far larger than anything they had ever seen before. The object appeared on their radar as a massive, shadowy shape, barely distinguishable against the blackness of space. But one thing was clear: this wasn't a ship they recognized. No known species had built anything like it. "Captain," Parker's voice cut through the tension in the command deck. "We've got a reading. It's definitely a warship, but it's unlike anything we've seen. The design's human, but the scale, there's no way this ship was built by us." Cole stepped forward, narrowing her eyes as she studied the data. The ship's structure was undeniably human, with sleek, angular features and massive engines, but it was far larger than any ship Earth had ever launched. The size alone made her uneasy. A ship this big could carry thousands of soldiers, enough firepower to wipe out entire colonies. But what was it doing here, drifting alone in the void? "Prepare to dock," Cole ordered. Her voice was steady, but inside, she could feel the unease stirring. There was something about this ship that felt wrong. They were getting closer to the truth, but every step forward only deepened the mystery. The crew worked quickly, pulling up the detailed scan of the warship. The surface was dark, scorched in places, with patches of damage that suggested battle. Yet there were no signs of life. No activity. No heat signatures. The ship looked abandoned, its systems dormant, as though it had been adrift for centuries. "Something doesn't feel right," Lieutenant Grayson said from his station. "It's too quiet. There's no power, No movement. "It's not abandoned," Cole said softly, her eyes scanning the warship's imposing silhouette on the screen. "It's waiting. For something. Or someone." The crew fell silent, each person grappling with their own growing sense of dread. They knew they were venturing into the unknown, but the weight of the situation was becoming clearer with each passing moment. Whatever the ship was, it had been out there for too long, forgotten by time. And now, they were here to find out why. "Docking complete," Parker announced, breaking the silence. The SS Elysium had latched onto the massive warship with magnetic clamps. The airlock hissed as the seal was made. The crew had no choice but to board. "Let's do this," Cole said, her voice tight. "We'll go in 2 teams. Parker, Grayson, you're with me. The rest of you, stay on standby. Stay alert." As the crew prepared to leave the Elysium, Cole couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every movement felt like it was under scrutiny. Every noise seemed amplified in the silence. The only sound was the steady thrum of their own heartbeat as they stepped into the airlock. The massive doors of the airlock hissed open, revealing the interior of the warship. The air inside was cold and stale, with a faint metallic scent that immediately filled their nostrils. The lighting was dim, casting long shadows across the vast halls that stretched out before them. It was eerie, quiet, like a tomb. Cole's boots echoed through the corridors as she led the team deeper into the ship. The walls were lined with strange, alien symbols, some familiar, others completely foreign. The ship had the look of something ancient yet advanced, as though it had been designed for a war that had never been fought. "Stay sharp," Cole ordered, her voice a whisper in the vast emptiness. She couldn't shake the sensation that they were not alone. Grayson, always the skeptic, muttered under his breath, "This place gives me the creeps. If anyone's still alive in here, I don't think they're friendly." They moved cautiously, checking every corner, every door. The silence was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's dormant systems. It felt as though the ship itself was holding its breath, waiting for them to make the first move. "Captain, I found something," Parker called from a few steps ahead. He had approached a large console embedded in the wall. His fingers danced over the control panel, attempting to bring it to life. The screen flickered, then crackled to life. The image was fuzzy, distorted at first, but then it cleared. What appeared on the screen was a face, a human face, but it wasn't any face they recognized. The face was older, worn with time, and the eyes, cold, empty eyes, stared back at them. "Who are you?" Cole whispered under her breath. The figure on the screen did not answer. Instead, it spoke in a low, mechanical voice that sent chills down their spines. "The warship is alive. You should not be here." The voice was full of warning, as though it had been waiting to speak to them for centuries. "Get it off the screen," Grayson snapped, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. But the face remained, its eyes locked onto them. The voice continued, this time with more urgency. "The ship must remain dormant. You must leave now." The screen went black before they could respond. The silence that followed was oppressive, thick with tension. "What the hell was that?" Grayson muttered, his voice shaky. "I don't know," Cole replied, her mind racing. "But it seems like someone, or something, wants us to leave." "We're not leaving," Parker said, his voice firm. "We need answers. We can't back up now." Cole nodded. "Agreed. Keep moving." They continued deeper into the warship, the feeling of being watched growing stronger. The corridors stretched on endlessly, twisting and turning in ways that didn't make sense. Every hallway felt like a maze, as though the ship itself was designed to confuse them. Then they found it, the heart of the ship, the control room. It was massive, far larger than any command deck on a standard human vessel. The walls were lined with advanced technology, consoles flashing with unreadable symbols, and large windows that overlooked a massive bay. The bay was filled with something that made Cole's blood run cold. Hundreds of stasis pods, thousands, maybe more. "Are these people?" Parker asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Cole said, stepping closer to one of the pods. Inside, she saw the figure of a human, frozen in stasis, eyes closed, a peaceful expression on their face. But there was something off. The humans inside the pods weren't just asleep. They were preserved, as though they had been put there on purpose, to wait. "Who did this?" Grayson asked, his voice tense. "Why?" The silence answered them. Suddenly, a loud hum echoed throughout the ship. The entire vessel seemed to shake as if it were waking up. The lights flickered, and the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. Something was happening. The warship was coming back to life. The control panels beeped frantically as a series of lights blinked red. An alarm began to blare, the sound deafening in the large room. "We need to get out of here now," Cole shouted, but it was too late. The warship's systems were rebooting, and something much worse was awakening within the depths of the ship. The crew had no choice but to run. As they made their way back through the corridors, the walls around them seemed to shift, as if the ship itself were alive, moving, reacting to their presence. They didn't know what had triggered the awakening, but they were certain of one thing: this ship, this warship, was not just a relic from the past. It was a weapon, and it was alive. The SS Elysium had barely escaped the warship's awakening systems, its crew barely holding on as the alarms blared around them. The ship's corridors were a maze, each hallway more confusing than the last. But they couldn't stop. Not now. They had uncovered something too important to ignore. And the truth was waiting for them somewhere deep within the heart of the warship. Cole's breathing was heavy, her mind racing as she led the crew through the dark, twisting hallways. The ship's power was coming back online, and with it, the sense that something was stirring within. They could feel it. The ship was alive, its dormant systems slowly returning to full function, as if it were awakening from a long slumber. The team reached a large open chamber that seemed to be the hub of the ship's operations. The walls were lined with strange markings, human, yet unlike any human language they knew. The symbols were ancient, worn down by time, but they were unmistakable. This was the work of humans. The design, the structure, even the technology. Everything pointed to a civilization far beyond anything the crew had ever encountered. "What is all this?" Grayson muttered, stepping forward to examine one of the symbols. His fingers brushed against the wall, and he felt a strange tingling sensation, as if the ship itself were reacting to his touch. "Human. This is human," Cole said, her voice filled with a mix of awe and disbelief. She couldn't take her eyes off the walls. The design was undeniably human, yet at the same time, it was something else entirely. The technology, the advanced machinery, they had never seen anything like it before. It was so far beyond their time. Parker was at one of the consoles, scanning the data. "Captain, I found something. Logs. There are detailed records here. Mission reports." But his voice trailed off as he read through the files. "These aren't like anything we've seen before." Cole walked over, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" "They're from a time long before ours. These reports describe military campaigns, conquests. There are mentions of different worlds, human colonies in far-off sectors. But the strange thing is, none of these places exist anymore." The room fell silent as the weight of the revelation hit the crew. "Conquests," Grayson repeated. "You're saying they went to war with other species?" Parker nodded slowly. "That's what these logs suggest. The ship was part of something massive, a campaign to expand human influence across the stars. But it was never finished. There's no record of what happened to the mission, no indication of what went wrong." "Why was the ship lost?" Cole asked, the question lingering in the air. It didn't make sense. This ship, built for war, had vanished, and now they had found it. adrift in the deepest part of space, abandoned. But why? The crew continued to sift through the logs, piecing together the fragments of the past. The more they read, the more questions arose. The warship, known as the Prometheus, had been part of a fleet sent out to conquer new worlds. The reports described several successful missions, but the final entries were different. They spoke of a strange, inexplicable event, a cataclysm that had destroyed the fleet. The logs were scattered and incomplete, but one thing was clear: something had gone terribly wrong. "This doesn't make sense," Parker said, frustrated. The Prometheus was supposed to be invincible. It was built to conquer. There's no way it could have just disappeared without a trace. Was it sabotage? Grayson asked. Was it taken down from the inside? Maybe, Cole said. She was deep in thought, her mind racing with the possibilities. But that doesn't explain why they left behind these logs, or why they abandoned the ship. As they continued to investigate, they found more disturbing evidence. Old transmission recordings, hidden deep within the ship's databases, revealed a crew, alive at one point, but slowly being worn down by something they could not explain. The logs detailed strange sightings, figures in the shadows, voices that spoke in languages no one recognized. The crew's mental health seemed to deteriorate, and many of them began to believe they were being hunted by something on board. The final log entry, however, was the most chilling of all. It was a video recording, not a log. The screen flickered to life, showing a group of soldiers standing in a dimly lit hallway. Their faces were haggard, eyes wide with fear. One of them, an officer, presumably in charge, spoke directly into the camera. "We've lost contact with the rest of the fleet. There's something on this ship, something we can't explain. It's not human. We've tried everything, locking ourselves in the command room, setting up barricades, but it's always one step ahead of us." The officer paused, his breath shaky. "I don't know how much longer we have. I've seen it. I don't think we're going to make it out of here. Whatever it is, it's killing us. It's hunting us." The recording cut off abruptly. Cole stood frozen in place, the hair on the back of her neck standing up. The crew was silent, each person processing the terrifying implications of the officer's words. Something had gone wrong. Something they still didn't understand. "What happened to them?" Grayson whispered. "Are they still alive?" Cole shook her head slowly, her mind racing. "I don't think they are. Whatever they were facing, it didn't just disappear. It's here, on this ship." The silence in the room was suffocating as the realization hit them all. Whatever had taken down the original crew of the Prometheus was still on the ship, and now it was hunting them. They needed to find a way off the ship, fast. But as they turned to leave, the hum of the ship's systems grew louder. The warship's power was fully restored, and with it, a new sense of urgency. It was alive now, more than just a machine. The Prometheus had become a predator, and they were the prey. "We need to move," Cole ordered, her voice sharp. "We get the data, and we leave. Now." But as they turned to exit, the ship trembled. The walls around them shook, and the lights flickered once again. A loud screech echoed through the halls, followed by the sound of something moving. Something big, something fast. It was already too late. The crew ran, their footsteps echoing in the darkness, but they knew they couldn't outrun whatever was hunting them. It had been waiting for them, just as it had waited for the original crew. The true horror of the Prometheus was about to reveal itself, and in the depths of the ship, the echoes of the past whispered louder than ever, reminding them that they were never meant to find the ship. They had stumbled into something ancient, something terrifying. And now, they were part of its story. The hidden enemy. The Prometheus shook again, a low groan coming from deep within the ship's massive framework. The crew moved quickly, their feet pounding the cold, metal floors as they tried to escape the growing sense of dread closing in around them. The ship was alive, it was watching them, and each new sound, each strange vibration, seemed to echo with a warning. "Keep moving," Cole said, her voice steady, but her mind racing. They had to get to the control room. There had to be something there that could explain what was going on, something that could help them understand the horrors of the warship. But the further they went, the stranger things became. The ship felt more aware. The walls seemed to shift, and the air grew heavier, thick with tension. Grayson, always the skeptic, glanced nervously over his shoulder. "Captain, it's like the ship is moving with us." Cole stopped in her tracks, her hand raised. The sound of their footsteps had stopped echoing. The silence was deafening. Then something changed in the atmosphere. The air seemed to grow colder, sharper, as if the ship itself had begun to focus on them. It was as though they were being watched, but not by any living creature. They could feel the presence of something older, something far more powerful. "I don't like this," Grayson muttered. "Let's get out of here." Suddenly, there was a low, grinding noise, followed by a soft hiss. A door they hadn't noticed before slid open, revealing a dark, shadowy hallway. At the far end, there was a faint glow, flickering lights that seemed to pulse with life. It was like a beacon, but they knew better than to approach it without caution. "What's that?" Parker asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Cole replied, her hand resting on the grip of her weapon. "But we're about to find out." They advanced down the hallway, the floor beneath them vibrating with a strange energy. As they approached the glowing light, the source became clearer. It was a stasis chamber, one unlike any they had seen before. The pod was large, almost grand in its design, surrounded by strange, glowing symbols that flickered in the dim light. Inside the pod was a human figure, encased in the eerie stillness of cryostasis. "Who is that?" Grayson asked, his voice tight with confusion. Cole stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "I don't know, but it looks like someone's been here for a long time." She tapped a console beside the pod, and the screen flickered to life. The soldier inside the pod began to stir, his body moving slowly at first, then more quickly as the stasis field was deactivated. The air hissed, and the pod's door slid open, revealing the soldier, his face pale, eyes wide with shock and fear. Who are you?" the soldier rasped, his voice hoarse from years of silence. He looked disoriented, as though he hadn't seen another human in centuries. Cole stepped back instinctively, her hand gripping her weapon, ready for anything. "We're here to help. What's going on? What happened to this ship?" The soldier's eyes darted around the room, and for a moment, he seemed to be looking at them, really looking at them, as though seeing them for the first time. He staggered to his feet, his body weak from years of stasis, but there was something about him, something unsettling about the way he moved. His eyes were sharp, focused, like a predator's. "You shouldn't be here," the soldier said, his voice low and warning. "No one should be here." "Why? What's happened to this ship?" Cole demanded, her voice growing more urgent. "What is it you've been guarding?" The soldier's eyes darkened, and he took a step back, as if the question had triggered a memory. One he wasn't ready to relive. I don't remember. It's been too long. But I know this ship. It's not what it seems." He glanced at the team, then back at the stasis pod. "I've been guarding it. For centuries. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Cole's heart pounded in her chest. "Guarding what?" "The ship," the soldier whispered. "The Prometheus wasn't built to conquer. It was built to contain. We didn't know it at the time, but we were wrong. We thought it was just another weapon. But it's something else." Parker stepped forward, his face full of confusion. "Contain what? What could possibly need to be contained on a warship?" The soldier's eyes flickered with something that resembled fear. "I don't know exactly. But there's something on this ship, something they didn't tell us about when we first boarded. It wasn't just the crew we were sent to protect. It was the cargo." "Cargo?" Grayson asked, his voice tight. "What kind of cargo?" The soldier's face twisted in pain, and he shook his head. "I don't remember everything. But I remember the stasis pods, thousands of them, just like mine. All humans, all preserved, and they were not meant to be woken up. We were supposed to make sure they stayed asleep. We were supposed to guard the ship from them. A chill ran down Cole's spine. Who are you talking about? What's inside the pods? The soldier's face paled. They're the reason we were sent here. They were meant to stay locked away. But something went wrong. One of them escaped. A harsh metallic screech echoed through the ship, shaking the walls. The lights flickered, and the temperature dropped. The soldier's eyes widened with terror. It's awake. They're awake. Cole stepped forward, her mind racing. Who are you talking about? What's in the pods? The soldier didn't answer. Instead, he began to back away, his body trembling with fear. I didn't want this. I didn't want to guard them. I didn't want to be here when they woke up, but I had no choice. Another screech, louder this time, reverberated through the halls, followed by a guttural growl. The sound was coming from all around them. The ship is awake, the soldier whispered. And so are they. The crew turned to run, but it was already too late. From the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, monstrous, and terrifying. Its eyes burned with an unnatural light, and its body was covered in scars, twisted by time, and something far worse. It was not human. The creature moved swiftly, its monstrous limbs outstretching like a predator stalking its prey. The soldier's voice cracked as he shouted, "Run!" The creature let out an ear-piercing scream, and in an instant, everything erupted into chaos. The warship, the Prometheus, had one final secret, a nightmare waiting to be unleashed. And now, it was free. The air in the control room was thick with tension. The creature, whatever it was, had disappeared back into the shadows, leaving the crew shaken, breathless, and unsure of their next move. The walls of the Prometheus seemed to close in on them, the ship now fully awake, fully alive. There was no escape from the nightmare they had just uncovered. "Captain, what do we do?" Grayson's voice trembled, his eyes wide with fear. What the hell was that thing? Cole, her mind racing, stood still for a moment. The soldier's words echoed in her mind. The ship was meant for something else. There was something bigger here, something more terrifying than they had imagined. "We have to stop it," Cole said, her voice steady. "We have to find a way to stop this ship from completing its mission." Parker stepped forward, his face pale. "Stop it? How? That thing, that creature, it's not alone. And I don't even know if we can control this ship. It's alive." The soldier, still shaking but more focused now, nodded grimly. "You're right. The Prometheus was never just a warship. It wasn't designed to conquer planets like any ordinary fleet. It was designed to be a weapon, an unstoppable force. But it was lost, trapped here in the Black Void after a catastrophe during the Great War." Cole's brow furrowed. "The Great War? What do you mean?" "This ship was part of an army." The soldier's face darkened, and he turned to look at the dimly lit walls of the control room, his eyes distant. "It was never meant to protect humanity. It was built to control the galaxy, to crush anything that stood in the way of human dominance. This ship was humanity's secret weapon, hidden away for centuries. It was meant to wipe out entire species, to create an empire that spanned across the stars." Parker's eyes widened. "You're saying that humanity was preparing to conquer the universe, to destroy anyone who stood in its way?" The soldier nodded slowly, his voice heavy with regret. "Yes, it was humanity's dark secret. And this ship, the Prometheus, was the key to that power. But something went wrong. There was an accident during the war, and the ship got stranded here, in the Black Void, where no one could reach it." "Why didn't anyone know about this?" Grayson asked, disbelief in his voice. "Why wasn't this in any history records?" "Because it was hidden," the soldier replied. "Humanity erased its own history. They wanted to forget the horrors that were committed, the lives that were lost. But the Prometheus never stopped, never turned off. It just waited. Now it's waking up again. And its mission is the same as it was centuries ago. Conquer, Cole whispered. The weight of the soldier's words hit her like a physical blow. But how? How is it still capable of doing that? The war is over. The galaxy has changed. The soldier's eyes grew darker. The ship's weapons are far beyond anything you can imagine. Its power is unlike any technology in the universe. It's built to adapt, to evolve. And now that it's fully operational again, its mission hasn't changed. It will finish what it started. Then we need to stop it, Cole said, her voice firm. We can't let it destroy everything. Parker stepped forward, his face grim. But how do we stop it? We're not even sure what we're up against. The Prometheus is. It's more than just a ship now. It's alive. The soldier's gaze hardened. There may be a way. The ship was designed with a fail-safe, something that could deactivate its systems if needed. But it's hidden deep within the core of the ship, and getting to it won't be easy. We'll have to fight our way through every obstacle this ship has to throw at us. And what if we don't make it? Grayson asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What happens then? Then the Prometheus will finish its mission, the soldier said. And everything you know will be destroyed. Cole felt a cold chill run down her spine. There was no time to waste. If they didn't act now, the consequences would be catastrophic. Let's go, she said, determination in her voice. We don't have a choice. The crew, still shaken but resolute, followed her as she turned toward the door. The soldier hesitated for a moment, then followed, his face a mask of grim determination. The halls of the Prometheus felt different now. They were no longer just the cold, metallic corridors of a long-abandoned warship. They were the veins of a living organism, pulsing with life. The ship had been dormant for centuries, but now it was awake. And it wasn't just the crew that was inside. Something far more dangerous lurked in the shadows, and they could feel it watching them. As they moved deeper into the heart of the ship, the temperature began to drop, and the hum of the ship's systems grew louder. The walls seemed to vibrate with energy, and every sound was amplified in the stillness. It was as though the ship itself was aware of their presence, and was preparing for something. We're getting close, the soldier said, his voice tense. The core should be just ahead. But before they could move forward, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low, ominous growl echoed from behind them, followed by the sound of something moving quickly, too quickly to be human. Something's coming, Grayson said, his eyes wide with fear. They turned to find the source of the sound, shadows shifting, shapes moving with unnatural speed. And then the creature appeared, a hulking, twisted figure, its body covered in scars, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. Not again, Parker breathed. Cole raised her weapon, ready to fight, but the soldier held up his hand. Wait. He stepped forward, his eyes locking onto the creature. It stopped in its tracks, its glowing eyes narrowing. For a moment, there was a tense silence, the crew unsure of what was happening. Then the soldier spoke, his voice calm but commanding. You're not getting past me this time. The creature growled, its massive form shifting, but it didn't move. It seemed to hesitate, as though caught in some kind of standoff. The soldier's hand hovered over a strange device attached to his belt. Slowly, he activated it, and the creature's growl turned into a hiss. Stay back, the soldier warned. You won't win this time. The creature snarled, but after a tense moment, it backed away, retreating into the shadows. The crew exhaled collectively, though their hearts were still racing. What was that? Grayson asked, his voice shaky. A guardian, the soldier replied. Part of the ship's defense system. It was meant to keep anyone from reaching the core. Then we're not far now, Cole said, her voice filled with urgency. Let's move. As they continued deeper into the ship, the weight of their mission grew heavier. The Prometheus was no longer just a lost warship. It was a ticking time bomb, and they were the only ones who could stop it. The future of the galaxy, of humanity itself, depended on their success. They had no choice but to keep going, and the closer they got to the core, the more they realized that the hardest part was yet to come. Reawakening the warship. The tension was unbearable. The hum of the Prometheus was growing louder, and the crew could feel the very air around them vibrate with power. They had made it to the core of the ship, the heart of its deadly systems. The room was vast, cold, and eerily silent, save for the faint mechanical whirring of dormant systems beginning to awaken. "We need to hurry," Cole said, her voice tight with urgency. Her eyes scanned the complex array of control panels, searching for any sign of how to disable the ship's systems. The soldier, who had guided them this far, stood by her side, his face grim. "It's already starting," the soldier said, his voice low and tense. "The ship's waking up. You can feel it, can't you? The power is starting to flow." Cole nodded. "We can't let it reach full power. If it does, we'll never be able to stop it." The crew scattered to their stations, each of them trying to decipher the ship's alien controls. But the systems were unlike anything they had ever seen. The technology was ancient yet advanced, as if the ship itself was beyond human understanding. Each panel seemed to pulse with a life of its own, glowing with ominous red lights. The walls seemed to throb as if the ship's heartbeat was resonating through them. "I don't know if I can shut this down," Parker muttered, his hand shaking as he tried to decode a set of complex symbols on one of the terminals. "These aren't human codes. This is something else." "We don't have time for this," Grayson snapped. "We need to figure this out now." Cole stepped forward, trying to stay calm despite the overwhelming pressure. She glanced at the soldier, who was monitoring the power systems. "Is there any way to stop this? A main switch, an override?" The soldier hesitated, his eyes flickering nervously over the control panels. "Maybe, but I've never seen a ship like this. The fail-safe systems are designed to prevent anyone from disabling the core. It's built to protect itself." A loud screech echoed through the room, followed by a series of deep mechanical clicks. The walls shook again, this time with more force. The ship was coming online. "Too late," the soldier said, his voice tinged with fear. "The self-defense systems are activating. We've triggered it. The weapons are powering up." The crew froze. Cole's heart pounded in her chest. "How long until it's ready to launch?" "Minutes," the soldier said grimly. "Once the weapon systems are online, there's no turning back. The ship is a weapon of mass destruction. It will wipe out entire planets if it has to." Grayson swore under his breath. "We don't have minutes. We have seconds." "Get to the main reactor," the soldier ordered, urgency creeping into his voice. "There has to be a manual override there. I can guide you, but we need to move fast." Cole nodded and turned to her crew. "Move out. We'll follow him." The group sprinted down the narrow corridor, their footsteps echoing in the silence, their minds racing. Every second felt like an eternity. The ship was awakening, its weapons priming for launch. The crew had no time to waste. As they raced through the halls, the lights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows along the walls. The temperature in the ship dropped sharply, and the sounds of heavy machinery began to reverberate from deep within the ship's core. It felt as if the entire vessel was coming to life, like it was becoming aware of their presence. "Keep moving," Cole barked. "We can't stop now." They rounded a corner and entered a massive chamber, its walls lined with thick cables and glowing power cores. In the center of the room was a control panel, the heart of the Prometheus's core. But as they approached, a deep, grinding noise filled the room. The floor trembled beneath them, and suddenly, the doors behind them slammed shut with a deafening crash. They were trapped. "Move, move, move," Cole shouted. The soldier turned, his face filled with desperation. "It's too late. We've triggered the fail-safe. We can't stop it now." "The weapons are charging." Cole's mind raced. They couldn't let the ship launch. If they didn't stop it now, everything would be destroyed. She dashed forward, her hand reaching for the control panel. "Find the override," she yelled. Parker and Grayson were already at the console, frantically trying to override the systems. Sweat beaded on their foreheads as they typed in commands. But the screen flashed red, rejecting every attempt. "Nothing's working," Grayson cursed. "The ship's locking us out." The soldier stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room, his expression grim. "It's no use. The ship's gone too far. There's only one way to stop it now." Cole's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? What can we do?" "There's a self-destruct mechanism built into the ship's core," the soldier said, his voice low. "But activating it will destroy everything. The ship will blow up, taking us with it. There's no other way to shut it down." Cole's mind raced. She couldn't let that happen, not without trying everything. "Is there another way?" "Not unless you can manually disconnect the weapon systems before they finish powering up. But even then, the damage may be done. Once this ship is in the air, it won't stop." Grayson turned to Cole, his face pale. "We can't destroy it. We can't let it finish what it started. But if we trigger the self-destruct, we're all dead. There's no escape." Cole clenched her fists. The weight of the decision hit her like a brick wall. She couldn't allow this ship to be unleashed. They had come too far to let it succeed in its deadly mission. "We have to take that chance," Cole said firmly, her voice filled with determination. "If we don't, humanity's dark past will rise again. We can't let that happen." The soldier nodded, his expression filled with regret, but also resignation. "You're right. There's no other way." Cole turned to her crew. "Get ready. We make our stand here. We'll trigger the self-destruct and take the ship down before it can take off." As they prepared to initiate the self-destruct sequence, a cold, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, its words chilling in their finality. "Warning. Self-destruction sequence initiated. Weapons systems online. Countdown has begun." The crew exchanged grim looks. The clock was ticking. They had made their choice. Now they had to see it through, no matter the cost. In the distance, they could hear the faint hum of the weapons charging, the countdown beginning. But as they reached the final stage of the self-destruct sequence, the ship shuddered once more, its systems fighting back, trying to regain control. The Prometheus would not go down without a fight. The race against time had begun. The alarms blared louder than ever, their shrill sound echoing through the cold, metallic halls of the Prometheus. The ship was alive now, fully awake and aware of its purpose. The crew could feel the immense power pulsing beneath their feet, the ship's weapon systems charged and ready to unleash hell upon anything in its path. Cole stood in front of the control panel, staring at the flashing red lights. Every part of her body screamed to escape, to run away, to leave the decision behind, and let the ship be someone else's problem. But she knew that wouldn't happen. The Prometheus was no longer just an ancient relic of a forgotten war. It was a ticking bomb, its engines prepared to launch, its weapons eager to strike. "We need to decide now," Parker said, his voice tight with fear. "The countdown is almost finished. We either destroy this thing or try to take control of it." Cole's mind raced. The soldier's warning still echoed in her ears. The ship was meant for the conquest of the galaxy, humanity's weapon of mass destruction. If they chose to destroy it, there would be no going back. The Prometheus was humanity's darkest secret, a ship built to conquer the stars. But if they took control of it, they would have the power to reshape the galaxy. They could protect humanity, secure their place in the universe, and ensure their survival against the growing alien threats. But was that the right choice? "I say we destroy it," Grayson said, his voice resolute. "We can't let this weapon fall into anyone's hands. It's too dangerous." Cole looked at him, her expression torn. "But what if it's our only chance to survive? What if we needed to fight the war outside? We don't know what's coming next. The universe is vast, and we are alone in this. The soldier, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. Taking control of this ship is a dangerous temptation. The intentions behind this vessel were never noble. We humans built it to conquer and destroy. You think you can control it, but you'll become what the builders once were: invaders, destroyers. I've seen it happen before. Parker clenched his fists. But we're not the same as them. We've learned from our mistakes. Have we? The soldier asked softly. Or are you just trying to justify using this weapon for your own purposes? The power is seductive, but it's corrupting. You must decide what kind of future you want for humanity. The countdown was ticking down. Their window of opportunity was closing. With every passing second, the Prometheus seemed to grow more alive, its weapon systems humming louder, its engines preparing for ignition. This isn't just about survival anymore, Cole said, her voice steady. It's about what we want to become. If we use this weapon, if we conquer the galaxy, we'll be no better than those who built it. But if we destroy it, Grayson argued, we might be dooming ourselves. We might be condemning humanity to extinction. What if there's nothing left out there for us? What if we can never rebuild? Cole took a deep breath. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. The Prometheus was more than a ship. It was a reflection of humanity's worst instincts: pride, greed, and the thirst for power. But was it fair to condemn all of humanity to the same fate? The warship's systems hummed, growing more powerful. The walls shook as if the ship itself was impatient, eager for action. Cole knew that the longer they waited, the less control they would have over the situation. We have to stop it now, Cole said, her voice cutting through the tension. We can't let this power control us. We have to destroy it. Her words echoed through the control room, but as soon as she spoke them, the ship seemed to respond. The lights blinked erratically, and the screens flashed with strange, alien symbols. The crew's path was not as clear as they thought. A series of alarms rang through the air, followed by a deep mechanical rumble. The ship's weapons were charging faster than they could disable them. Suddenly, the main doors to the control room slammed shut with a thunderous crash, and the lights flickered. They were trapped. The soldier moved quickly, rushing to a panel on the wall. The self-destruct sequence isn't just about destroying the ship. It's also designed to stop the weapon systems from firing. But we can't do it from here. We have to reach the central reactor core. It's the only way. Cole nodded sharply. Let's move. They ran, sprinting through the dark corridors, the sound of their footsteps drowned out by the hum of the ship's awakening systems. The walls seemed to pulse around them, as if the Prometheus itself was aware of their intentions in fighting back. But there was no turning back now. They had made their choice. It was either destroy the ship or risk using its power, and the consequences of that were too dire to even consider. The soldier led them through the winding hallways, his steps sure and quick. The crew followed closely, adrenaline pumping through their veins. They could feel the temperature rising, the air becoming thick and heavy with energy. Finally, they'd reached the central reactor. It loomed before them like a monstrous beast, its core glowing with a fierce, otherworldly light. Parker stepped forward. We have to overload the reactor. That will trigger the self-destruct and shut everything down. But as soon as he began to approach the console, a warning flashed on the screen. Warning: core destabilizing. Weapons systems locked in. Shutdown procedures initiated. It's already too late, the soldier said grimly. The ship is taking control. It's already started its final sequence. We can't stop it now. Cole turned to face her crew, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what they had to do. There was no easy choice here. No right answer. They had to make a decision, and it had to be made fast. If we don't destroy it, it will destroy us. It will destroy everything, Cole said, her voice breaking the silence. We have to end it here. Now. With one final push, they activated the self-destruct sequence. The ship shuddered violently as the countdown began. The crew gathered together, their faces filled with resolve. The sound of the Prometheus shaking, the alarms blaring, the power systems shutting down. It was all a blur. But they knew they had made the right choice. They weren't going to let humanity's dark past define their future. As the countdown reached its final moments, Cole held her breath. They had done all they could. Now, all they could do was wait for the explosion that would end the warship's reign of terror. In the distance, the sound of the reactor's implosion echoed through the halls. And with that, the Prometheus was no more. The crew had survived, and humanity had a second chance.